Okay, so the question we have to look at with the beginning of the parsha is a question of great depth and power. And that is revenge a good thing? Nakama. Is that tov or zara? So you would say to me, Rabbi, what are you even talking about? Taking revenge? Taking nakama? How can it be a good thing? The Torah tells us in Parsha Kedoshim, Lotikom velotitor. You cannot take revenge and you cannot bear a grudge. Revenge and bearing a grudge are seen, some say each one of those is its own isur doraita, its own forbidden activity. Every time you take revenge against another individual, you are transgressing one of the Tariag mitzvot, 613 mitzvot. Every time someone cuts in front of you in traffic, and you're like, I'm going to show them, and you drive and you cut in front of them, almost causing an accident. Or every time someone insults you, curses you out, offends you, and then you go and you curse them out and you shout at them, or someone gets in the way of you getting a business deal for whatever reason, which in their minds is okay, and then you come along, I'm going to show you, and then you break them and their business, and you talk lashon hara about them. It is the same Torah that says you cannot do that says you can't eat pig. It would be the same as eating a ham sandwich. I don't see the difference. Why we look at eating a ham sandwich or a pork sausage worse than taking revenge, I don't know. This is one of the great questions which I've never had a good answer to, why we seem to disregard many of these halachot, and yet when it comes to kashrut, we're like, that's the real things you cannot do. When it comes to interpersonal relationship wrongs, we all do it. We all take revenge. We all bear grudges. We all talk lashon hara. So that's another question. But revenge, is it a good thing or a bad thing? So obviously from the Torah we see it is a terrible, terrible sin. And yet, my dear friends, we come to this parasha, and not only is it shown to be a good thing, it's actually, and hear me well, my dear friends, it's actually a godly trait. God himself loves revenge. Taking revenge, taking nekama, kel nekamot Hashem, kel nekamot Hofiyah. It says in Tanakh, in Tehillim, this is a great thing to do. Taking revenge, wow! You want to know who takes revenge? God takes revenge. I know. It says lo tikam v'lo tetor. Well, which one is it? Make your mind up. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing?
We have the city refuge too, right?
And we what?
And when someone kills accidentally or not, we have the city refuge.
Right, we have city refuge. We don't want the person to take revenge against them. We want to protect them from those who want to take vengeance. Very, very hard to understand. So many cases. This parasha gives us the quintessential case of nekama, of revenge, not perpetrated by Hashem, but perpetrated by a man. Not only a man, but a kohen. A kohen, someone who is all about peace, shalom. The Brit Kuna is all about shalom. As the parasha tells us, there was a great man called Phinehas. He was the son of Elazar. He was a grandson of Aaron HaKohen. He's a great man. And we know that Aaron HaKohen was all about shalom. He never took revenge. Whenever Aaron HaKohen saw people try to take vengeance against another person, he went out of his way to make sure there was shalom. He was rodef shalom, to make sure there was shalom, peace between them. He was the antithesis to anything that was revenge related. I mean, you couldn't get further away from revenge and anger and bearing a grudge than Aaron HaKohen. And yet we meet his grandson, Phinehas. And Phinehas, the Torah tells us, we saw last week, ends up with him killing two people who did terrible, terrible acts in front of everyone. And they were eliminated by Phinehas. We know Zimri and Cosbi. Comes on Phinehas and he kills these two individuals, and yet the Torah says, wow, this person reversed Hashem's anger. Hashem was angry because people did nothing about this act. And Bekano et kinati, because of his tremendous vengeance that he took, Hashem said, wow, Phinehas, you're amazing. You revenged my vengeance. I didn't do it. You, Phinehas, you stood up and you took out my vengeance against these terrible people, and you brought a peace, a brit shalom I'm going to give you for what you did. Friends, which one is it? Pick a side. Is nekama a good thing, or is nekama a terrible thing? Are we going to follow the words of the Torah when it says lo tikom, or are we going to follow the words over here regarding Phinehas, that it is a beautiful thing, not only that, performed by Kohen, who is not allowed to have any blood or death associated with them, even a drop of blood. How Phinehas, a Kohen, was able to do this is such a big question. The Rishonim speak about it, but he did it, and he's commended. So to answer this question, I want to dive a little deeply into what is wrong with vengeance. What makes revenge such a bad thing? When we figure that out, we may be able to figure out why revenge, in some cases, is considered the greatest thing. And don't think these two things are mutually exclusive, because you can have a situation where one act that one person does is amazing, and another act, a same act or a similar act committed by another person, is the worst thing. The best thing and the worst thing. So how can it be? How can it be? Well, let me give you an example. If I said to you, I saw a person take a knife, a sharp knife, and cut into somebody who seemed unconscious on the floor, you'd be like, wow, that's terrible. How can they do such a terrible thing? But if I told you that person was a surgeon, then you would be like, actually, that's a good thing. Although the person's unconscious and couldn't even give consent, you can assume that after this cutting and the refuah this person, this surgeon is going to give, he's done a great act. And yet if I told you that a person cut into someone else because he's trying to steal this man's wallet, right, or steal from him, the same act in the same way, obviously, is seen as a terrible, terrible thing. So we can see there are circumstances where the same act are done, but since the motivations and the mechanisms and the outcome of these two acts are completely different, one is a tremendous mitzvah and one is a terrible averah. Nekama, my friends, revenge, is exactly the same. Two people doing the same thing, potentially in the same way. One is doing the worst thing, and one is reaching the highest heights of fulfilling their mission in this world. That's what she said. Arim Miklat as well. We see that that's an accidental death. That's an accidental death. And Hashem says it was done accidentally, and we give this person somewhere where they can go in order to protect themselves. Here, there's no Arim Miklat. He sees an act, and he goes and kills, and takes revenge. Okay, revenge is a bad thing. And I'm going to tell you a very unusual reason why. Why the Torah forbids revenge. You ready for this? The Torah forbids revenge, say Chazal, the rabbis tell us, because we don't know how to do it. We don't know how to do it. Really, it's a good thing. We don't know. Just like cutting into this person's stomach is a bad thing, and yet in the hands of a surgeon, it's a fantastic thing. Why? Because he knows what he's doing. But for anybody else, it's a terrible thing. Revenge is exactly the same. When a person takes revenge, they're doing it. Why? Because you don't know how to do it. And therefore don't do it, says the Torah in Parashat Kedoshim. Because when you take revenge against an injustice, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to rebalance this injustice. If someone curses you out and upsets you, or a person hits you or stops you getting a business deal, and then you take revenge against them, you think you're redressing an imbalance in the world, but actually you're not. Because you don't know how to exactly take vengeance and to fix that person's bad deed. And therefore, Revenge is a good thing. Redressing an imbalance is a good thing. But we do not know how to do it. So when you hit that person or curse them out or stop them getting business, you want to redress a balance, get the equilibrium back to where it's meant to be. But actually, you're down here, this person's up here, you want to do this, but you don't know how to do it. You're going to come along and you're going to hurt them and offend them and do much worse than is prescribed by the Torah. And that is the case in 99.9% of cases. Don't take revenge. Don't take revenge. However, and it's going to sound extraordinary, but there are times and there are cases, my dear friends, where taking revenge is a great thing. By who? Who has that power? Who has that ability? So the Gemara tells us that a Talmid Chacham, a great Torah scholar, who doesn't take revenge is not a Torah scholar. Why? Well, how come they get dispensation for taking revenge? Because they know how to do it. They know exactly, luchot ha'sa'ara, to a hair's breadth, how to redress an imbalance that has come into this world. They understand. And I'm going to add something. When they take revenge, they're not doing it for their own honor. It's not about them. They're taking revenge for Am Yisrael, for Klal Yisrael, for the Torah, for Hashem. Now that's good. That's very, very good. On a national level, exactly. It's not for them. It's not for them. They're doing it for a bigger cause. Their ego is not into it. It's what? Right. They're doing it in order to bring down people who want to destroy us. They want to bring down people who want to lessen Hashem in this world, God in this world. That, my friends, is a good thing. Phinehas, yeah?
Remember Rabin, this assassinator, he actually declared he was like interested. Remember that?
That is an absolute aberration. Such an individual does not know by assassinating or trying to assassinate, which we saw this week. People are still trying to assassinate. This is the worst thing. This is a tremendous chilul Hashem, because these people do not know. They think in their twisted, sick minds that they are redressing an imbalance in the world by taking revenge. But they're not. Far from it. They are destroying Hashem's creation. Are there people who do know? Phinehas. Phinehas knew exactly how to readdress this imbalance. He understood, my dear friends, that if he didn't take revenge at that moment, the Chilul Hashem and the plague that had come upon the people, those killing people, was going to continue and would have wiped out all of Am Yisrael and Klal Yisrael. Yeah.
Of course, you should interpret what Phinehas did, because that's what the Chachamim are afraid. But what happened when you kill somebody in a bird, right? La'arov b'shgaga.
Right.
From where he is until the miklat, by law you allow Hashem.
There is the Goel Adam, very good. The Goel Adam is allowed to do it.
Signs and everything, so there's don't shapech dam naki.
Yeah.
You know, so it's important, but it's very, you know, and he's going to be punished, even though there's some punishment because he wasn't as careful, and he has to stay in the Kohen Gadol.
Very, very good. So you're talking about a case where a person kills b'shogeg and inadvertently with some negligence. There's some he did something that was negligent. Okay? He was carrying a knife in a stupid way. He was, the famous Gemara we see in Makot, everyone speaks about it, right? The barrel, he wasn't watching, he was walking below him, he's lowering a piano, right? And he kills someone. There was negligence over there. The Torah says it's understandable that his family wants to take vengeance. It's understandable. We get it. And they're allowed to do it. Because they have the ability at that moment, in that circumstance, to take vengeance against this person. But the Torah doesn't want it. And the Torah sides with this person, and the Torah says, go, take a detour, run away. And there were signs all around Eretz Yisrael to say, Arim Miklat, just like we see today, right? Miklat, because we're being attacked. So too, this person was allowed to go, and people would go and try to protect him. You're right. It's not so clear cut. It's never clear cut. Listen, right now we're seeing the Jewish people fighting our enemies. Is that vengeance? Are we taking revenge against what they did on October 7th? What is the mentality? Really, this is very complicated, but their mentality is, or should be, that we're not taking revenge. We're here to wipe out any future attacks against our people and to bring justice. We have the ability, Hashem gave us the ability through Bedin to redress this balance. That's what the Gemara says. It's okay to redress that balance. You are allowed to do it. The Torah gives you permission to redress the balance that has been allocated to us. We have the ability to go and take vengeance and to, more importantly, to wipe out any future threat. This is a mitzvah. But what exactly is your motivation? When the Goel Adam goes and do it, he's like, I'm going to go get that guy. Look what he did to me, right? He was negligent. He didn't do his job properly. He's running around with a knife and he killed my family member. That's understandable. Or is he coming along to be like, you know what? The Torah allows me to do this. This is what I need to do, right? Even if it's unpleasant. And it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant to go around and start to taking revenge and killing people. But the Torah says there are times, like in the army today, our brothers and sisters who are fighting on the front lines, or Phinehas, who did a version of this in the Torah, where it becomes, and by the way, how does the Torah see this person after the act? Are they punished for what they did? How does a person see this individual? The Torah goes out of its way, where Hashem says, Lechen, Emor, say, Hineni doten lo, I'm going to give him Er Briti Shalom.
Because people spoke and say, he's giving Nasib Israel.
They spoke laz about him. They spoke Lashon Hara about Phinehas.
Moshe couldn't do it.
He couldn't do it.
He was married to Tzipporah. So he was
It would have, very, very good. If the rabbi, right, if anyone else would have done it, it would have seemed, it's ironic that the person who Nekama and shedding blood was given to someone who was a Kohen, who was a descendant, to show that this wasn't about the desire for blood or the desire for bad vengeance, because there's good vengeance. Desire for bad. If it had been someone who's all about killing people, right, and wants to take power for themselves, instead, it was given to someone who was Mr. Shalom.
And how many people saved in the plague?
Thousands, 20,000 people were killed in the plague. It was gonna wipe out the rest of Am Yisrael.
They say it was going to be 10 times as much.
It would have continued wiping out everyone. This act of wiping out, it's not nice, but he did a mitzvah. Funny, we don't see these things as a mitzvah. It is a mitzvah. Not every mitzvah is, helping an old lady across the street, right? Sometimes a mitzvah is unpleasant. That's why I always say a mitzvah isn't a good deed. A mitzvah is the right thing to do in that situation. That's the definition of a mitzvah. A mitzvah is, I'm doing the right thing right now. Phinehas did the ultimate right thing right now. He was able to stop the death of all Am Yisrael, Klal Yisrael, by taking on this role, which was a halakha. Was halakha.
This last portion, 2400, 24,000, and then more. When it was the men. It was the men of that tribe, because the women, and that's why they went to have immorality with the non-Jewish women. The women were keeping the morality, and it was a smaller group, and all of Israel gets
Very, very good. Okay, you're asking a much bigger question, but I will answer it. The question is, those people who are watching online, the question is, how can it be that thousands of people die for the sin of a few people? And this seems to be happening a lot, right? The golden calf, the Chet Egel, small amount of people. By the way, the fact that it happens that way is in a sense a good thing, because it takes a small amount of people to fix it. One person, Phinehas, was able to fix something, right, that was generated by a small group of people as well. So it's like for like. It's like for like. We don't need everyone to fix a situation that was created by a small amount of people. Small amount of people. So the answer is going to have to be, you're going to have to say that just like one person can bring a geula, a redemption, Hashem gives the power to one person to bring terrible injustice to the world. That's the power that you can't just be like, we always say the power of the individual, one person can make a change. Yeah, one person can make a change for the good. But one person can make a change for the bad as well. One person steps out and does the most heinous act, and everyone else stands back and doesn't react to it. It's as though they're all guilty. That's why Chazal tell us, it's in Inyan Yomah, we have Tisha B'Av Tammuz coming up this week. I'll tell us that any generation that doesn't rebuild the Beit HaMikdash, it's as though they destroyed it. Whatever for me, I didn't destroy it. It must be that there is an inaction in every generation that prevents the Beit HaMikdash from being rebuilt. But, I mean, it's not even people in my generation. We're all guilty. Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh B'Zeh. We're all involved. And even one person and other people do not react can break it down. But if one person does react, they can fix it all. One person can fix it all. Phinehas did it. I mean, it's happened way many more times, where we see that one person does a bad act. We're all affected by it because we were standing aside and weren't reacting. And then one person comes along and fix it for all of us. It's the power of the individual to do good, but we don't want to talk about it. But the ultimate answer is it could be one terrible individual who can make it all bad as well. That's the way Hashem created the system. We act as individuals. But if everyone else doesn't stand up to at least protest, if we don't stand up right now and show commitment and solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael, it's going to sound crazy, but there is an equal guilt that lands in our hands. Hashem allows these things to happen, and we, although we're not in Israel, and we're definitely not in the army, have to stand up and say and do something. Whether that thing is a public tehillim, right, a public prayer, talking in response, right, to those people in power who want to blame us, yeah, we are partially guilty for it. That's the way Hashem set up the world. Hashem set up the world that we as bystanders are never bystanders, right? We all have the obligation, right? I mean, a friend was talking to me this Shabbat. He went to Auschwitz for the first time. A friend, Chaim Gray, went with his family. Auschwitz, I gave him advice how to do it. I've done it many times. So many stories of people who had opportunities to do something and did nothing. And so many stories of individuals, one person who did one act and saved thousands of people. So many stories. Among them, righteous Gentiles. You know, you hear so many such stories. You know, I grew up with the famous righteous Gentile, you know, Raoul Wallenberg, right? Who came along and went out of his comfort zone and ended up being, you know, taken by the Russians and lost after the war. These people do tremendous good. It could take one person that can fix an absolute mess and save people. Phinehas is the prototype of such individuals, where one person stands up against the masses and says, I'm not going to stand for this. I'm going to be the person that takes on this very uncomfortable and dangerous role. It could have been that the Jewish people amassed against him and tried to kill him. That could have happened. You realize that? They could have said, you're killing him. Zimri was a great person. It could be they're being like, why, you killed Zimri? You're out of your mind? And they could have killed him. That could have happened. That could have been the end of the story. But Hashem interceded and said, quickly, tell everyone he did the right thing. He didn't do it for himself. This is kinati, my vengeance, says Hashem. I'm standing up for Phinehas to say he did the right thing. Had Hashem not done that, it could have been that it was killed by the rest of and Klal Yisrael who were watching this large spectacle. And that's, by the way, the rabbis tell us, that's why it says, Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe lemor. Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu to tell everyone that Phinehas did the right thing. Lemor means tell everyone, right? He says, tell everyone, he didn't do it for him, he did it for me. Right? He went to war for me. Just like our soldiers in Eretz Yisrael are going to war, not for themselves, but for Hashem. You should know the difference between wars for Hashem and against Hashem. Okay, we'll stop over there. Have a great, successful day.